the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
How do we help women from the pressure placed on them by peers, coworkers, family and friends, the culture we live in, from social media to the movies we consume, literature, all of it, and the abortion industry where there's a pressure to abort our own children? We know the statistics from the Charlotte Lozier Institute 2 years ago released that 7 in 10 women who had an abortion, that abortion was unwanted, coerced, or deeply went against their beliefs and what they desired. But the cultural attitude is this today. It goes so much beyond this. It goes so much beyond the actual abortion itself, before abortion is ever even a possibility, before a baby has ever even been conceived. To have no children, the pressure to have fewer children, even the pressure to not mourn the loss of your own child if a miscarriage occurs because it was early or maybe it wasn't the right time. Not that those, again, God works in different ways, and allows things to happen, and we can see good that comes at times. But women are told literally to not mourn the loss of their child. This is all part of this radical pro-abortion, anti-life mindset. Women are also told today, oh, you're lucky, you can't have kids, ignoring the fact that women are suffering the unthinkable cross of not being able to have babies, whether from causes unknown to themselves or because they waited too long. Lead attorney Harold Cassidy commented that abortion is not a medical procedure. It's not medicine, he said. It's a way to terminate the mother's relationship with the child. And I'm so glad he said that, because this has occurred before a child is even thought of, before a spouse, before a sexual partner has even been chosen or found or consented to. That severing, that termination of the mother-child relationship is so normative today that we have bred it into children as young as 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, and then we hit them over the head with it over and over again, ad nauseum. History class, somehow by their math teacher, social studies, economics, social media, the movies they watch, their peers, the parents, people making comments about how that family's too big. That person never should have been a parent. What messages are we sending? Or, oh, that's a shame. The world really lost a good one. She could have offered a lot of gifts in medicine, in politics, in teaching, but instead she had kids. Those are the comments that are made regularly, even by pro-life individuals. Our culture has successfully embraced abortion, contraception, the severing of the parent-child relationship, the emphasis on outsourcing the raising of our own children. And then there's this conundrum of infertility, that women are coming back and saying, no, I do want babies, but it's too late. It's too late for many, whether from the scars of STI infections, whether it's from the fact that they just waited too long. And be careful. Don't assume that the reason a woman can't have child is because she's done something. I think it's really important that we not look with those eyes, but that we know that this is a part of the pain that is there and part of the cause, and that we need to help stop this cause of infertility. And this is why I wanted to mention that being pro-life goes so far beyond being opposed to abortion. In our modern culture, it means building up the idea of motherhood before motherhood is even thinkable. That's with little girls. I have 2 little girls, and it's funny, in the mom culture, I knew it was a thing to give children gender-neutral toys, to not give girls baby dolls, to just let them stumble upon them themselves, but to also make sure they never come up in their house. We've gone to this culture from a young age where we rear children not to love and enjoy and indulge in babies. Yet when little girls are allowed to, even little boys too, they delight in children. You know, my daughter was 1 year old when, in the same area we were living in at the time, her cousin was born, and she was practically gently, but she was practically climbing in his car seat, wanting to love up on him, give him kisses, desiring to hold him. To this day, she's 4 years old now, and any baby she wants to hold. I have my little nephew that moved, praise God, to town from out of state when he was still just a couple months old, and she and I have wars over who gets to hold this baby. It's so beautiful to see. But that's being stymied in little girls. That's being stymied in young children when we don't give the gift of siblings to kids because we're too tired at 1 and 2. And hey, I got my boy and a girl and that's enough. I shared my big news that I'm pregnant, and I've gotten a little bit of a kick out of it and a little bit of a jaw-dropping moment as it's become very normal as I share, we're pregnant. And people say, oh, yeah, I expected that. You have 2 girls. I expected you try for a boy, but, this is your last. So who knows? We'll see what happens. Literally, people are telling me already that this is my last child because they think that 3 is already excessive. I can't tell you. I can think of 5 people who've outright told me that this is my last child. It's just astounding. Again, this anti-life, small family mindset. I remember when my daughter was just about a year, and I remember starting to see how I just thought she needs a sibling. She needs a sibling, and we were just open to whatever God's plan is and God's timing. But it was true. She needed a sibling. So it's good for her to overcome her pride and her selfishness, which we all have. Good for her to be challenged. Good for her to have fun and engage in that relationship. I remember when I was in school, our theology professor, Dr. Michael Barber, said, the command by God is to be fruitful and multiply. So that means, first of all, couples, we have to have children. But he'd say, 1 isn't enough because that's not multiplying. That's just replacing 1 person. And 2 isn't enough. And again, not everyone's able to have children or as many children. That comes and happens. Every child's a gift. But he said 2 isn't enough. We're still just replacing ourselves. But then you multiply when you have a 3rd. Also, if you look into the research, when there's more than 1 child, the first child learns how to take care of the second. They learn how to cooperate and get along. Then when a 3rd child comes, the 2 children learn to cooperate with each other in loving and caring for a 3rd. And how there's this gift and this balance of how through siblings we start to build that pro-life culture. And again, fast forward, move into those middle school and high school years where it was really interesting living in the Midwest for a couple of years. Where compared to California, where I've lived my whole life other than a couple year stint in the Midwest, in California, it's kind of few and far between where young girls, especially in those middle school, but in particular in that high school range, think that it's okay to show interest in little babies. But then you go to the Midwest. I remember seeing, it was really neat to see. I would be walking with my newborn baby or with my toddler running around, and these teenage girls were so excited, overjoyed. Can I just look at your baby? Oh, that's so cute. And they were just so excited. We need to foster that and build that up. Even to the point, I remember I was sitting at Mass, and she's become a friend, but a couple years ago, I was sitting at Mass, there was this young woman who seemed single and was just sitting, and she's looking at my little girls and is so interested. And I think it was my second, she was maybe close to a year, and she's squirreling, but thankfully behaving to stay in Mass. And I finally just look over, I said, "You're welcome to hold the baby if you want." And she had tears in her eyes. She was so excited. It's a complete stranger. Grant, yes, she had the vetting of being at Mass in a traditional Latin Mass. So there was safety there. But this idea that we need to invite people in to look at our babies. I spent a lot of time traveling during COVID back and forth between the Midwest and California with a newborn, with a 6-month-old, with a 9-month-old, with a 1-year-old, and all the way up to 2 years old. And all of the mask enforcement and the social distancing, and I would see people glancing at my baby, and yes, we could discuss health risks and so on and so forth, but I don't want to right now. And I'd say, "Here, go ahead, you can look at my baby. Even on rare occasion, I say, sure, you can hold my baby. I remember I was on an airplane at one point, and there was a group of women who were traveling cross country, and there were about 5 or 6 of them in 2 rows surrounding me. And I go, please, can we just hold your baby, please? One of them sitting there crying, my ovaries hurt. I said, sure. I let them hold my baby. And I share this because these are moments where we need to allow and foster and kindle, even in strangers, this joy of life, this celebration of babies. I'm excited here. I'm having my 3rd baby. I'm pregnant. I'm so excited, especially on a day like today when we're looking at over 50 years of Roe versus Wade. Praise God, that was overturned a couple of years ago in 2022. But we're remembering the baby's loss, but we're also celebrating, and might I argue, as someone who is pro-life, holding dear and clinging to the babies we do have in this radical pro-abortion culture we live in. So we're celebrating our baby. We're fighting for the life of this child that has put us through the ringer, and I'll share about that in more ways than one, trying to keep this baby growing and strong along with myself during it. And then we're celebrating this weekend. We're so excited. We're celebrating the baptism of my nephew. He'll be baptized this Saturday. You can pray for little Matthew. Praise God. Pray for him, his soul, to always remain with God, because he'll be a little saint on Saturday. He will literally be a little saint. And then it's up to his parents, the godparents, aunts, uncles, all of those who are around him, to help him in modeling for him and calling him to remain in that sanctity, to remain in that sanctifying grace. But meanwhile, in our culture right now, again, that relationship with children is being severed. Women are being convinced, not just by peers and boyfriends and family, to sever that relationship, but by just the culture overall, before those children exist. I mentioned it. Don't have kids. You'll waste your talents and lose your dream. You could always abort if you start to question or there might be a slight defect. Hey, put your kid in daycare right away. 6 weeks, 6 months, you name it. Make sure you do preschool that has somehow turned from 1 year prior to 2 years to 3 years prior. Again, I know people are trying to survive, but we've been duped to say that women have a better role outside of the home and that kids learn authority from strangers, even though all the statistics show that's not true, no matter how hard we try to prove that. And then you have the after-school programs where your kids don't really need you. They want to socialize with their friends, even though they're stuck in school socializing all day long. And so when the after-school programs lead late into the night, the kids don't even know their parents. We have a brief hour, half hour in the morning and at night. And then parents are told, well, they don't really need you. Kids are resilient. All of this is a cultural lie. And it's convincing women and dads, too, that they're not important at the raising of their children. You see, the common mantra of our culture in the daily struggle for women, whether you have children or you don't, is that women are told you're too small, you're too important. You can offer your gifts elsewhere. Your kid is fine without you. Your kid would rather socialize. But that's a lie. This idea that we're saddled with kids or too important or smart to not offer our gifts, or that we're not capable of coping. It's hard. It's an emotional roller coaster, parenting. But that we can, and we need to change that narrative.
This entire episode of Trending with Timmerie is on the Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers. Don't delay, download the app today, and thanks for listening.